Thanks, everybody who can make it today. First item on the agenda is the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Justin.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So, some of you may remember last month, we had talked real briefly about the draft Metropolitan Transportation Plan for 2050. Happy to announce that we are at a document, finally, 122 pages in all its glory. And I'm going to take you page by page through it this morning because I got 35 minutes to fill. Kidding. But anyway, show you a little bit about where you can find information on it. Obviously, our website, Programs, Transportation, Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Right up at the top, you'll see a link to the draft 2050 MTP document. That'll open up for you, download a nice convenient PDF to view that we'll go through in just a minute here. But below that, you'll see public comment period, which is open now. So we opened that up May 1st. Public comments are being accepted through May 19th. There's a handy dandy form down here. Also, some paper copies available over to the side of the room with our nice and trusty comment box. We'd appreciate it. If you have any thoughts on the plan, please submit one, and we'll be sure to incorporate your thoughts into the document and address your comments. So, zoom out here a little bit, and I'll try and not make everybody seasick with the motion as we scroll through this plan here. But you'll see this plan is quite comprehensive. I've talked a lot about why we do this, what the intent of it is. The crux of it is that it keeps us certified so that we can receive federal money. And that allows all of you to do projects, through our normal transportation programming. So in this document, you'll see this introduction section covers what metropolitan planning is, the purpose of the 2050 MTP, gives some background context on our region, provides a little bit of tie-in to some of our other planning efforts, and also talks about some of the federal requirements and guidelines. So I'll jump to this real quickly because I think this is really important, where we specifically call out the pieces of the U.S. Code and the Code of Federal Regulations that bind us to this work. This is really what guides us in how we develop this document. This is how we process all of our programs, in particular this plan. So you'll see the 3C planning process. Really important, continuing, cooperative, and comprehensive. That's been preached for several federal transportation bills, and they're keep moving that forward. So that is at the core of this document. A 20-year planning horizon. I know we've harped on that. It's in the name 2050 MTP. So we're looking out over an extended period of time and fiscal constraint. So we need to make sure that the projects we have in this plan are actually feasible. Do we have the money to carry them out over this time period? And then as we get into the Code of Federal Regulations, a few more aspects of that, calling out public participation and performance-based planning, as well as coordination with state and local plans. So making sure that we're not doing this in isolation, we're referring to other efforts that have been done. Jump back to the table of contents here. After we go through kind of setting up the document, we go into some planning context. A lot of this is data and maps. So you'll see just some figures and some maps as we scroll through here, as well as some content on some various areas like our location, our land use planning, our population projections, where we work with the Ohio Department of Development to look out to 2050 and figure out what are our trends, what are we planning for in that time. Jim loves to harp on this repopulation effort that we're chasing kind of on our development side of the agency. Obviously, there's a tie-in here. You could, thanks. You could see that we're trending downwards. As of the 2020 census, our population was sitting at about 430,000. Looking out to 2050, ODOD is projecting we'll be down to 340. Pretty substantial drop there of about 21%. So as we think about the work that we're doing in quality of life, how do we maintain that level if we are losing that tax base, if we're losing that population? and what can we do in the interim time to make adjustments to that. I won't go through all of these, but we look at kind of the age of the population, breakdowns by age category, look into race and ethnicity, as well as language, migration, poverty rate, income of our residents, some housing factors, which this one is very interesting with the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law. They are further encouraging the interaction between transportation and land use planning. So there's considerably more attention paid to housing in this version of the document because Federal Highway has allowed us to do so. So that makes our planning program funding more flexible going into the future as we think about future work programs and some of the other topics we can use that type of funding for. Look into travel patterns and people's commutes, as well as vehicle miles traveled to figure out how much people are traveling within our region. And all of this kind of gets wrapped up in our travel demand model, which down at ODOT, they run for us. We give them some inputs and they tell us how our transportation network performs so that we have a better objective view of how our transportation system works. Then we go into goals and objectives. I've hit this one pretty hard. We've received a lot of public engagement specifically around this piece because this drives the direction of our planning. This tells us where we need to look, what we need to look at, how we need to think about it. There is one small change from the previous draft is that we kind of condensed our goals. I kind of took one of them out and managed to merge them together. So we have 6 nice goals instead of 7. Feels a bit more manageable. I think they're a little more complete by kind of merging them together. But at the highest level, you've got safety, preservation, mobility and accessibility, economic competitiveness, public health and quality of life, and environmental stewardship. These all came from starting with ODOT's Access Ohio 2045 long-range plan. We wanted to make sure that we stayed pretty tight to what ODOT is planning for in their long-range planning efforts, as well as some of the federal goals that Federal Highway has set out. And then we obviously took it to the public and to our communities to ask for input that way. And we kind of smashed all of that together to come up with these goals. And I think we cover a pretty wide array of bases here. So jump back up. As we go through the goals and objectives, there is a section of the plan that calls out each specific goal, talks about some of our performance to this point, as well as what we plan to do moving forward. So how these goals will be integrated into our future work programs and some of our planning programs. So you can see the headings correlate to all of the goals that we set out, and there is a ton of information on specific aspects of each of these goals that we'll look to make some progress on as we continue our work over the coming years where this plan is applicable for. So after goals, we start talking money. Funding is kind of a critical aspect of this plan. Like I had said before, we have to demonstrate fiscal constraint for the projects that make their way in. So we start out talking about what are our funds, our MPO funds, have some descriptions of our funding programs that come through our office. Also, some other related funds that many of you may be familiar with, maybe you have applied for and received and been successful utilizing. And then we get into our forecasts, which is where we take a look back at our last 10 years of funding data and figure out, what is our average level of funding, whether it's federal, state, or local on the highway side, and then transit side, federal and state and local as well, to come up with total and an average that we could then turn that into funding level projections out through 2050. There are an infinite number of methodologies to look at for federal funding projections out that far. Something that we've utilized the last few MTPs, and we've stuck with this one, is to project out 2% inflation for the short-term years and keep that funding level consistent through our out years to 2050. So you'll see that reflected in this chart to where those first 3 years get that 2% growth rate, and then we remain consistent just so that we are planning on a conservative end. If we overestimate the amount of funding that we think we'll be able to get in, that gets us into a dangerous situation where we're now taking on projects that we are not ultimately certain, or we were over enthusiastic about being able to fund in those out years. So taking this very conservative approach allows us to better plan and better manage more realistic outcomes into that 20-year future. Then we start talking projects. So not sure how long ago, but Stephen had presented to this group, and I believe also the policy board, about our project solicitation for the MTP. There's a short summary of the projects that we received here. In the short term, there's 134 projects totaling $284 million. In long-term projects, we have 50 totaling $118 million. There's some breakouts there for bike and ped, operation and maintenance, bridge, and congestion mitigation. And we have some maps as well as the table, which is way too small for anyone in this room to read, but we do have some printed copies there if you're interested in taking a look at these lists. That kind of catalogs all of these projects with the requisite information. So we have funding, we have the background, we have the projects. How do we implement this? How do we track our performance? How do we know that we're doing this the right way? So the federal transportation bills have implemented performance areas, safety, congestion reduction, system reliability, environmental sustainability, and reduced project delivery delays. Some of those are high-level categories that we have mapped directly to our goals for this document. Others of those are some of those nested strategies that sit underneath those goals. So we wanted to make sure that what we are tracking our performance on is directly tied to the goals that we are set out to achieve through this planning process and how we develop our work programs over the next few years. So when we get into this, we have some baseline data for a lot of these performance measures. A lot of this gets pulled from some of our other planning work. So our regional safety plan, or our TIP, or our performance measures report makes its way into this. And I think that's the beauty of kind of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, is that everything we do on the transportation side ends up being a plug-in component. So this kind of sets the foundation, the groundwork for the work that we do. And as we add to it, we're able to accentuate it, get deeper, further into the weeds, to pull out a lot of this fine-grained detail. So a little bit of talk about the work program, some of the main elements of what goes into it. In this section of the plan, we also talk about kind of where we're looking in the coming years. And then we get into air quality conformity. So we're doing transportation projects. We need to demonstrate that we're not negatively impacting air quality. So through this, we explain where our region kind of lies within the regulations and the responsibilities that we maintain as a result of that. And then we go into our environmental justice analysis. So in the same way that we track air quality impact, we want to make sure that we're tracking social impact. So this is where we look into the areas in our region that have a high population of minority residents and a high population of low-income residents, and make sure that none of the projects that are occurring or planned to occur in those areas are negatively impacting the people there, or are making a positive impact as a result of that development. So the environmental justice analysis kind of lays out the steps in this process, how we look through and determine kind of conformity with our process. And there's also another table with very small print on the screen that lists all of the projects that lie in those areas, those census tract areas, and which areas they're impacted under our environmental justice analysis. So certainly a great list to look through and go through and see what's planned to impact those areas and if it's a benefit or negative. Also incorporated is transit into this plan. So we do a similar environmental justice for public transit. Again, looking at minority populations and low-income populations, and some other figures there that call out that information. have a section on Title VI. So as a recipient of federal transportation funds, we have to maintain compliance with our Title VI and civil rights regulations. So we have to ensure non-discrimination in all of our programs, provide equal employment opportunity. So this involves some project evaluation. So this looks at census tracts with disabilities and limited English proficiency, very similar to the EJ analysis. And then we make it to the end of the plan, where we're at our appendices. I'll jump back here, just kind of give an overview here. We have an acronym glossary, so anybody that works in government is very familiar with the alphabet soup. Try and give you some kind of resource to go to if you come across one that you're unfamiliar with. And also in the text of the document, try to make sure that we maintain that, spelling it all out. Another section on the 2050 MTP requirements, and this kind of brings it back up, which I felt it was really important to address this twice as we call out what those requirements are and how this plan specifically speaks to those requirements and how we're addressing them. Just to underscore the importance of that and to make sure that we're being very clear about how we're working through those. We have our public participation process, which is on our website and available there. Also included in the appendix of this document. What we do in addition to that is we document all of our public engagement. So we have a listing of our public engagement events that we held and related conversations that we've had regarding the development of this document, as well as some screenshots and included figures on how those public engagement efforts were held. And then lastly, in the document, we have our general policy board resolution and our FHWA letter. Those will be included after this document is final, after all the approvals are through. We'll bring this all to a nice, clean wrap up. We'll submit it to Federal Highway and Federal Transit and ODOT for our air quality conformity process that occurs after policy board approval. And then shortly after the start of our new fiscal year, we'll have a brand new approved document that's ready to roll. We can start working on it. Any questions, thoughts, lights, gripes?
Questions? Thank you, Justin. You gave everybody a good appreciation for the effort in this document. Quite a lot of information. Okay, next, Mark's going to update us on economic development and broadband.
Thanks, Chair. I'm glad those lights got shut off because I had to go back to my office and get my sunglasses.
I'll turn it back on.
Oh, please don't. Okay, so I wanted to give a quick update today on where we're at with not only the EDA program, but broadband as well. The last 3 years, broadband's almost become a program of its own. We have projects in all 3 counties, a lot of funding to be able to tap into with the IIJA. And so it's become a major priority. But we'll start with EDA. Since 2002, and a lot of the work for these projects was put in 2021, but we've received funding for 7 different projects. The first is a regular renewal, Eastgate's EDA Partnership Planning Grant, which covers the SEDS and the overall EDA program work that we do. That covers us through fiscal year 25, $420,000 total with EDA funding, local match. The Trumbull County Tourism Bureau, which this week they've had their consultant in town from Europe. Actually, they hired Euphoria Consulting to conduct a regional tourism master plan. And the reason why they selected a consultant out of the area is they wanted kind of a objective look from someone who had no familiarity at all with the region and really provide a strong critique of what they might be doing wrong, things they could do better, what opportunities are out there. And so far, they're very happy with how that project's coming along. The Crab Creek Corridor, was just talking with Hunter earlier when he walked in. That project is going smoothly. I believe the consultant AECOM's been in town numerous times. They've been here. We're very happy with the work that's getting done. The east side of Youngstown is certainly a priority. And I think many of you probably saw on the news that one of Youngstown's councilmen actually invested 250,000 of his ARPA allocation into a site in that corridor. So lots of big things happening, and it was all made possible starting with this EDA grant. The Port Authority received a grant to do a airport redevelopment study. That project's underway as well. They've had several workshops up at the airport. They have another one coming this Monday. And they're just really trying to wrap into that study all of the different feedback they've received from stakeholders and trying to reimagine what they could do out there at the airport. Obviously, they still hope to bring back some kind of discount airline to the airport, but what can they do in the interim to kind of diversify what it is they do out there rather than just wait around for an airline to come back. So again, very happy with where that's going as well. The Golden Triangle infrastructure improvements, that project hasn't begun yet, right, Gary? But
Engineering just started up on that.
yeah, the engineering process so far, but that was a major award from the EDA. Followed up very closely by the next project listed, the Mahoning Avenue Industrial Corridor upgrade. They pretty much copied the Golden Triangle's playbook, and they were equally as successful. Just about a year later, they received funding to do some industrial corridor upgrades up there in Mahoning County. And then lastly, the most recent award received in the area is the Edge 2 Revolving Loan Fund out of Valley Partners. They had the Edge 1 that was funded a few years back by EDA. It was very successful. And in fact, the EDA reached out to them to apply, which is always a good sign. And they were awarded another $1 million to continue that program, which Teresa Miller has said they will begin here shortly. And so in total, in the last roughly 16 months, to get that, if I can move that out of the way a little bit, maybe not, but a little over 11 million total in EDA funding, local match on these 7 projects. So the program's in good hands. I think as a group here at Eastgate and with our local communities, we're getting better at this. I think that's evident in the results, and we will continue to try to find new ways and projects that will fit the investment priorities of the EDA. And then on to broadband. I probably could spend the next 2 hours talking about this. Justin could tell you we meet with Steve Christen, our broadband coordinator, weekly, and we use every bit of those hours. And if Steve had his way, we'd still be sitting there from yesterday today, right, Justin? But the biggest project is the State Route 11 fiber line. And we received funding last fall from the Ohio Department of Development to conduct an engineering analysis for that line, with the purpose of being ready with that engineering if and when we were funded by the NTIA's Middle Mile program. We're still waiting for that announcement. They were supposed to come March 1st. It's May 4th right now. From our folks down at Broadband Ohio, they said that an announcement will come before the end of the fiscal year, because they said the federal government wouldn't want this to go into the next fiscal year. So that gives us till about the end of June that we hope to hear something soon. But if funded, our fiber line will account for about 17 to 20 million of the total grant application that the state of Ohio put in. And as you can see, there's several other routes that they have proposed that kind of go through southern and southwest Ohio. But for the sake of this argument, our fiber line, we think, is the most important. So connecting underserved Appalachia, this was a project that we worked closely with Ashtabula County, the Governor's Office of Appalachia, and lots of folks contributed to this project, but it was a power application put in actually just a few weeks ago with a total project ask of 2.5 million, but with match from the county and from the provider that we got on board to help us carry this project out. The total project cost me about 12.5 million. And what this will do is this will deliver fiber directly to communities in southern and eastern Ashtabula County. So it's a future-proof solution. It's going to deliver up to 1 gig speeds. And that'll go to the folks that are most in need in our region, are the rural populations of southern, eastern Ashtabula, northern Trumbull. A lot of those communities lack even basic internet access. And so we're targeting those communities for this project. And we hope that this can serve as a good example for future potential replication in Trumbull and then in Mahoning as well. But it was a great effort, and we'll expect an announcement potentially on this project in the fall. Next, another project that's getting ready to get underway and was funded last year under ARC Power as well as the Trumbull County Broadband Engineering Analysis. This project will look to complete a fiber loop that'll go through Niles, Warren, Allen, and Weathersfield. Not too far off Route 11, as potentially to find some lateral connectivity once we get the State Route 11 fiber line in. But it will target underserved businesses, institutions, households, really just looking to make a regional impact, to continue to further economic development, bring folks back in, as Justin said. It may not seem like it, but broadband is one of those focal points people focus on. I mean, if you want to work remotely, it's very difficult if you're kind of coming into a rural area or even community cities that don't have the highest speeds. And that project will be about $80,000. We expect to complete that probably by the end of the summer, early fall, the latest. And then lastly, wireless deployment. So the Asheville County Commissioners have been very active in broadband, trying to do everything they can, working on a variety of projects that you've seen so far to get service out to the rural townships. This specific project will target Lenox, New Lyme, and Cherry Valley. They procured the services of a wireless broadband provider. And as you see in this picture right here, they have the commissioners, and this was a tower in Cherry Valley where the provider, Ohio Transparent Telecom, had just put their equipment on the tower. And so they're doing some testing, making sure everything's working correctly, and they hope to offer that service to the residents of that township beginning this spring. This project is of particular importance because if successful, we've been talking with several folks from Trumbull County and also Mahoning, and this could be an easy project to get up going in the short term while we wait for some of these bigger projects to come through and try to replicate that success in the other two counties. But all told, I think there's about 35 million in pending investment into broadband in our three counties, which is a large number. There's plenty more money to go after, and we continue to kind of push the envelope. Sometimes we have to almost reel Steve back in, but there's not a project that Steve Christen won't take. Nothing he's not looking at, and very happy with the work that we're doing in broadband. So that's it for me. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
I got one question. That initiative up in Trumbull County, 79,000 and change.
Sure.
So the implementation of that is based on the State Route 11 fiber?
It's not based off of it, but I mean, as you can see, I mean, it's nearby, so we're looking at ways to kind of develop smaller projects around that fiber line as being sort of the central kind of feeder route. But it was a project that began sort of before we started our main initiative. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, before we get down to open discussion, Ed's going to discuss OPWC annual meeting.
Thank you, Gary. Just this past Tuesday, the District 6 Public Works Integrating Committee had their annual meeting. During that meeting, they re-elected the chair and vice chair, which is Pat Giannetti and Randy Smith. The committee also approved the scoring methodology for the next round of funding. That methodology, once they approved it, I sent it down to the director of the Ohio Public Works, and she just approved it yesterday. So we're good there. The committee also approved the calendar of all the meetings this year. That calendar, when all the applications and pre-applications, everything we do, that calendar will be uploaded to our website probably next week. I already sent it out to everybody on my list. So if anybody wants a copy of it, let me know. We also discussed the balances and contingency projects from round 37 for SCIP and LTIP projects. We discussed the active projects. Active projects are those projects that were approved by funding from Ohio Public Works, and they're just not yet closed out by Ohio Public Works. Some of those projects could be finished and the final paperwork hasn't been sent in. Some of those projects could be in the middle of construction. Some of those projects could not even be started yet, but they're all on the active list that I try to keep an eye on. We're going to have a workshop in this room on June 20th at 9 a.m. We'll be discussing the pre-application and all the requirements for the upcoming round. Anybody that's going to be involved with submitting a pre-application, encourage you to come and be a part of that. On our website, I won't bring it up, but on our website, there's an OPWC section that has all the files that are necessary for the funding round. Now that the meeting is over and the committee approved all those items, I can update all those files. I got a lot of them updated already. So I'll work with Eric next week and I'll get everything uploaded. And once that's done, I will send out an email to everyone and a link to that website. So they can go in there, they can look at the scoring methodology, they can look at the program manual, they can download the pre-application and any other files they might need for the upcoming. So that is all I have. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll open up. Anybody's got any items for discussion?
Yeah, staying on topic with annual meetings, you've heard us talk about Eastgate's annual meeting. We're less than 2 weeks away now from our 2023 annual meeting. Registration's been open. Register now, register tomorrow. We have a great agenda put together. We have Matthew Chang coming up from Jacksonville. He did a lot of work with Michael Baker International on our Live Zone report. Really fantastic speaker, a lot of great knowledge on kind of some advanced technologies, autonomous technologies, supply chain. You'll certainly hear from our executive director, Jim Kinnick, hear about what Eastgate's doing, what we've been successful on, what we're kind of working towards into the future. And then we're throwing a panel discussion out there this year. 3 excellent speakers. Mark touched a lot about our EDA successes over the past few years. Helen Hines is our representative on the EDA side, so she'll be able to provide a lot of expertise there. And additionally, we'll have Mark Winchell from the Ashtabula County Port Authority and Mayor Doug Franklin from the City of Warren. All 3 of these individuals and their organizations have shown kind of how to succeed, show that process. So we invite everybody to come attend, get questions ready, kind of hear their thoughts, inputs, full breakfast, full lunch, registration right on our homepage. $35, really great price for a full breakfast, full lunch, and all those great speakers. Register today. Credit card's the easiest way. Invoices are there, checks there, any which way. Look to see you on May 17th. Any thoughts, questions regarding the annual meeting? If anybody needs any help throughout the registration process, write us an email because our phone systems are not working. But again, right on our homepage, main banner right at the front, get your registrations in. We'll see you on the 17th.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else have any questions, comments, discussion? Okay, couple reminders. July 6th meeting has been canceled. So our next meeting is going to be August 3rd. There's none scheduled currently for June. So our next regular meeting will be August 3rd for the TAC committee. And then everybody's welcome to stay. Michael Baker is going to be doing a presentation on the outcomes for the completion of the Live Zone plan. So everybody's welcome to stay.
Jim Catsiopoulos is here. I'll introduce him in a few minutes here. Give you guys a good presentation on kind of our successes and our outcomes on our live zone vision and action plan. And then, like Gary mentioned, stick around afterwards. We've got some subs and some goodies, subs from Jersey Mike's, some snacks, some goodies, drinks. So please stick around and kind of learn about one of our big initiatives.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.